All right, thought I would share with everyone the proper way to plant a Japanese maple, especially in clay soil. Japanese maples are pretty cool. There is a little bit to learn about them before you think about buying one and planting one. We've known a lot of people who have had them planted, and because they didn't know how they needed to be planted, they couldn't tell other people how to have them planted. So they pay a lot of money for these trees. They pay a lot of money for someone to plant them, and they die. Let's look at what Japanese maples are real quick. This is probably my favorite one because it's always green. The leaves are, and it grows kind of like a crepe myrtle or a yopon. It's going to grow out. It's not going to get very tall. Leaves are green. Leaves are super small. It's super, super pretty. It's actually a pretty resilient Japanese maple also. You are still going to have to worry about root rot. But this guy, the Acel or whatever the heebie-jeebies, this guy is what the bottom of most expensive Japanese maples are. Almost all Japanese maples are going to have this guy's roots. And so what happens is, where's an expensive one? This guy. So this guy's really expensive. I don't remember what he's called. What makes him so expensive though, there we go, that line right there. That's what makes him expensive. What happens is the growers, the cultivators, take this tree, and then when it is about this tall, they cut all of the leaves off of it, and they cut a V into it. There's my V. Cut a V into it, just like that, and then they take another plant and they insert it into that V. The reason being is this tree doesn't have roots that will ever grow, really. So you have to super baby them. So they take just a stick off one of these and they put it onto one of these. That makes them incredibly expensive. The problem is this tree already has really bad roots for most soils. So they're really pretty, really nice, they're really expensive, kind of can be hard to take care of. So when you plant them, especially in clay soil, what you're gonna have to do is dig a trench. And so this is the trench that I dug right here. Now I'll video it again once the hole is dug, right? But the hole is going to be up here, and then we're on a hill, and this hill slopes down, and so does the trench. And it's a very gradual slope, but the idea is at the bottom of this trench is going to be at the bottom, almost at the bottom of wherever I plant my tree. It's certainly going to be below the root ball. What that's going to do is when I fill this trench with sand, it's going to allow that water to drain out away from the tree. It's going to be able to fill up the bottom of the hole, and everything else is going to drain. Now this clay soil is really good at retaining water. Okay, it's also really good at repelling water. It's very porous, very non-permeable. Right? So it's going to hold on to a lot of water, but it's not going to accept that much or very quickly. That's what they make pots out of, right? They fire it and they solidify it, and then those pots are really good because they allow airflow, but they also are watertight. So anyway, what we want to do, dig that trench, put sand. All right, so our hole is dug. We got our tree by the hole. There's a couple things. One, a lot of you are going to say, hey, rather than build a drainage trench around my pot, why don't I just dig a really big hole and fill it with sand? Wouldn't that be effective? The answer is it kind of depends on the amount of rain that you get, but the other answer is no, it wouldn't be effective. Because what happens is Essentially, this clay soil is just a pot, right? So there are trees that do really good in clay and really good in soppy conditions. There's a bald cypress. It loves clay, loves swamps. So yeah, on that one, we did just dig a giant hole and plant it, and it's been there 2 years, and it's doing, or a year now, and it's doing really, really, really well. But that guy loves damp soil. He has a lot of antibodies or whatever the hell that allows him to not die of fungus. This Japanese maple is different. And unfortunately for me, but fortunately for you, I broke the pot on the way down here so we can talk about its roots. So, almost all of the roots are in the first 4 inches of the plant. And it doesn't matter how old the plant is, that's going to be true. So now that we know that about the roots in a Japanese maple, we can talk about what kind of hole we want. So any plant you buy is going to say it likes well-draining soil, because they do for the most part. And when you plant it, dig a hole twice as wide as the pot and twice as deep. There's a couple things to think about with the Japanese maple. One, all of its roots are on top, and it gets root rot real easy. So we want to try and actually plant this part right here above the ground, right? We don't want to cover that. We can cover it with mulch later, but it needs to be exposed to air, because all of these little roots, that's actually just pine whatever straw, all this little root, that's a brand new root, they need to be able to breathe, right? So in the wild, these things would live on a forest floor in a temperate climate zone, because they love the cold, without vines. They are slow growing. They need exposure to air, and they don't have deep roots. I think old forest, that's where this guy would be most at home. Where I live is not like that. So we need to try and make it as similar to that as possible. Oh yeah, not a ton of rainfall either. Think Germany or Canada, not a riverbed in the south. So we have our hole. It's twice as deep and twice as wide. I'm actually going to fill most of that with sand. And then I'm going to put the tree on top. I'm going to see how tall it is relative to the ground. And then I'm just going to keep adding dirt until this little guy is as high as we want it to be. All right, so now we got our tree out, and he's doing good, kind of. What I'm going to do now is I have topsoil. I'm going to put the topsoil around this part and around this part. I'm going to just backfill everything else here with sand. That way it'll drain. It'll be happy. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, so our hole is mostly filled now. So you can see, you have the root ball here, right? The top of the roots are right here, right? That's pretty good, because that means no water will ever be sitting on top of them, which is what we want. Next, we're going to fill this whole thing in with sand. But look, there are some of the roots that are going to be touching where the sand is. Again, that's what we want, because we want this whole thing to be able to drain away. I'm going to have to water this tree probably every day. All right, so now that we have the trench filled, our hole done, we're going to take pieces of sod that we cut when we made the hole and the trench. We're just going to fill it back in. That's it. Now I threw out the other sod that was originally the trench. If I had kept that, this would be a lot easier, but it was infested with ants, and so I just I just threw it out. But this is actually a pretty good thing to show. I'm cleaning up my I'm cleaning everything up right now. I'm washing away the extra sand, but then I'm also doing a water test for my plant. And so if you put the water down here, and never water directly in the hole, because you'll have too high of a flow rate and you'll have too much erosion. And this is actually a pretty high flow rate already. But see, if you watch it, it doesn't, when the flow rate's this high, it doesn't give the sand any time to absorb it. And so the water just runs right out. So what I did was I built a little dam around it with the extra sod, just to slow the water down enough so that the sand has time to absorb it. Because we do want it to get water, we just want the water to be able to drain. But anyway, just thought that was kind of cool.